Hello everybody, this is Monstertaming coming at you with another Kindred Fates video. This time we're going to be revisiting this old pre-alpha tier list that Umberto made and then I did a response to and everything. I wanted to do something a little different. I was thinking about doing a tier list for the alpha, which I am going to do. That is part of this, but the second half of the video is going to be me guessing at what the other kinfolk that aren't in the alpha yet, where they're going to place. So if you're just here for the tier list, then we'll go ahead and get started really quick. But if you want to stay for the whole thing and see my predictions, then make sure to watch till the end. To start off with, I just wanted to show this is what I predicted the roster would look like, assuming, because we had no idea what kinfolk were going to be in there. So this is just what I predicted, just guessing wildly at who was going to be in there. And I was pretty wrong on most of these, but as we'll see shortly, I think I was right in a few of them. So, I'm just going to go ahead and reset. And we'll start off using just the alpha kinfolk to begin with. So first off, first alpha kinfolk is Shovelet. I'm going to put Shovelet in A tier. I think Shovelet is extremely survivable, has low DPS, but it's not non-existent. Like, you can kill some people with Rock Slide and Quicksand. His melee attacks, Bite, Crush, I'm pretty sure it's called Crush, and Basic Attack are all extremely overwhelming, but his Basic Attack can finish off an enemy if they're extremely low health. It's happened before for me. Dig is amazing utility, even if you don't actually hit the stun. If you hit the stun, it's just icing on the cake, but it helps you just increase your survivability ridiculous amount. Rest is amazing when you're on ruins, not bad on Riverside, and very extremely situationally good on forest, but most of the time it's just not, it's a dead slot in forest, if I'm being honest. Quicksand is good on every single map. Rock Slide is good on every single map. Dig is good on every single map. All of these get worse as you trend away from ruins towards forest, Riverside being the middle ground. But being very good on 2 out of 3 maps with just being an overall strong kinfolk, I think I'm gonna put Shovelet in the A tier. The next kinfolk I see that is in the alpha currently is Imbear. He's also going A tier. Imbear is he's a bit of a special one. He is decently survivable. He has decent maneuverability, but he really shines. He has really high damage. Imbear has Explosion and Scorch. Those two alone are some of the upper tier moves in the alpha right now. Those moves really carry him up high, but his basic attack has good damage and is fairly easy to hit with. And then his fire spin is good for knocking enemies away. He has a kind of a hard time with the final slot. He doesn't really have any good fourth move. I tend to use Fireball, but it's not exactly the best of the best moves. So I put him at A tier just because he is probably the most balanced and well-rounded kinfolk on the entire roster. And just a quick description of the tiers if you don't already know how I'm ranking them. S tier is broken. They need some kind of a nerf. Just like they're too good. A tier is essentially perfectly balanced. I think you don't need to change anything about them. B tier, they're they're good. They're playable. Use a little tiny bit of love, but in general, they're on the right track. C is they're very situational. Like they can possibly work, but it's situational and they really need some decent buff. D tier means they're like unplayable in almost every situation in every map, and if you put them on your team, they're a complete dead weight. So with that clarification out of the way, let's move on to Kadoki, S tier. So Kadoki has some of the best moves in the game, but the best passive in the game. Basic attacks, fairly weak, but they're rapid fire, so they're good against a lot of kinfolk besides Mekit and Shovelet. Stunner flies are ridiculously strong. They can just horribly harass kinfolk like poor Shovelet, and they can even be used to a lesser extent against Mechid to trick him into trying to use Rage, which then you can switch somebody else and hit him. They're good against Skulkin. Basically, force Skulkin to teleport away. Skulkin can't outrun them. Imbear has to focus them down. Lumala has to focus them down. Slifer has to run away. It basically just forces almost any kinfolk in the entire game to leave you alone. And then that's just Thunderflies. Then we have Wicked Thorns, which have not even talking about their combo potential. They have the ability to just lock an enemy down, like on Ruins particularly. You put thorns up in the different entrances and the doorways and stuff, and you can prevent them from running through those ways. It can be used as a makeshift wall to help you while you use your passive, which lets you heal yourself. Just all that stuff. And then icing on top is the only thing I really think Kadoki needs nerfed is sleep. Like everything else, Kadoki doesn't have a way to actually kill his enemies. Like, Kadoki can be annoying with all those other things I named, but sleep allows you to put someone to sleep, switch to Imbear, put through all three Scorches. No, you put someone to sleep, you spawn Wicked Thorns, sorry. Then you switch to Imbear. Then you put all three of your Scorches down. Then you hit them with an explosion and instant kill essentially any kinfolk in the entire game. There is no move in this entire game that can kill your enemy from full health to dead in like, what, 5 seconds? 5 or 6 seconds flat. There's nothing that can do that. And that is why I think sleep is overpowered, because it is literally one move that will take any kinfolk from full health to dead, as long as they're not buffed, with the only real skill required is hitting the sleep. Now, I do not want to discredit hitting the sleep. Hitting the sleep is not trivial, but it's not crazy enough to justify just annihilating one of your opponent's kinfolk. And that's why I think Kadoki is S tier. Other S tier, Lumala. Lumala's basic attack is strong, and that's not why they're an S tier, but they have a decent basic attack. Their Righteous Light does some pretty good damage, a little hard to hit though against experienced players, but it is fairly decent. Overall, Lumala has a decent move pool, but what really breaks Lumala is Angelic Ray. Angelic Ray, while it's not particularly good on Forest, it is like broken on Ruins and still very strong even on Riverside. It will essentially guarantee you a win if you are fighting someone and you use it smartly who is around your skill level. Like, you could probably even beat someone who is better than you if you're on Ruins, honestly. There's not a lot that someone can do. They have to be significantly better than you to make up for Angelic Ray, because it can heal yourself and all of your kinfolk, and it has virtually no cooldown. You can have Angelic Ray up like 90% of the fight. Angelic Ray can be placed on the ground somewhere, negating a huge amount of your opponent's damage. They would have to hit like almost every single attack they do against you and be right on top of it. And if you have some way to take out any of their people, like Imbear, for example, with a Scorch, and they don't have someone else ready and available that can put down AoE, there's literally nothing they can do to stop you from just healing for days, and it feels horrible to play against. I have both played as and against Lumala using those tactics, and I can say on both ends it feels completely broken. We're almost done. Moving on to Mechid. Mechid is a B. Mechid's passive is not particularly useful. It just makes it so that you have the ability that you're not affected by debuffs. Basically, you can't change your state except for yourself. Rage is good, but really easy to punish. Like, if you use Rage in Quicksand, you can easily throw down a Scorch or Cost a Cloud on you. Use Rage in Thunderflies, same thing. It's very, very easy to punish Rage, and Rage is Mechid's main way of dealing damage. If a Mechid does get Rage off, then it is very, very strong kinfolk. If they had a more consistent way to get Rage off, they'd be A tier easily, maybe even S tier. So I think Rage is in a relatively good spot because it's very high risk and very high reward. But there just feels something missing about Mekid. Mekid's hard to kill, Mekid does good damage, but I would rather have any kinfolk above Mekid right now. Mekid's probably the bottom of my list for kinfolk. I think the main thing is Mekid's just too basic. Like everyone else has versatility and utility, but Mekid is just kind of I hit hard and have high HP, which isn't really good enough when you compare it to like all it takes is putting a dot on Mekid and Mekid is essentially useless. Because you can pretty easily kite Mekid until they die, especially if you have something like a shovelet, put quicksand on them, use dig, run them around, and he's done for. Or just get Kadoki with Stunner Flies and Wicked Thorns and just wait for him to burn out, etc., etc. Imbear can just knock him away every time he tries to get close. Iron Fist is kind of wonky to hit with. It's just Mekid just needs a little something else. Mekid is honestly the hardest, I think, in this entire list. To give a definitive reason why he's not particularly great, but I think that it's his vulnerability to dots and his lack of versatility is probably the main culprits there. Next up, we have Skulkin. I'm going to play Skulkin in a B tier as well, because Skulkin's weird, because Skulkin's really slow. Wither is really good, but extremely hard to hit. Like, I've never seen anyone in this entire game hit Wither consistently. I think Wither needs a buff to be more consistent. The only move Skulkin really has that Skulkin can make good use of is Caustic Cloud. Homing Shot and his basic attack are both decent, but Caustic Cloud is his bread and butter. Caustic Cloud is amazing. The DPS potential is through the roof, but you're putting everything on one move. If they have the Chrysantidote, there's nothing you can do. If they have just good dodge timing, it's hard to actually hit them with it or something like that, then there's not a lot you can do. You can usually bait him into it. That's why he's not C tier. He is perfectly playable. Same thing with Mekid. It's just he falls behind something like Skulkin in a lot of ways feels like a worse Imbear. If debuffs get better and maybe Wither gets better, maybe he gets some new if Skulkin ever gets a passive or something, I'm sure that would probably help him a lot. Teleport is the best versatility move in the game. It's just amazing to be able to teleport wherever you need to go. It's very good for getting away from people, so that is definitely Skulkin's strong suit. Not bad. And no one in B or above is bad. And Slifer. Last but not least, we have Slifer for the Alpha Kinfolk. Slifer's in B tier. It can pretty much be summed up in melee is bad. Like Slifer is outcompeted by Shovelet. You just can't kill him. Like Shovelet has too much health, and Slifer has to give up too much to get in close to actually deal damage to Shovelet. Being sad about Slifer's attacks, he's still very fun to play though. But when you compare Slifer to something like Imbear, Imbear is just way easier to deal damage with because he's ranged. I think that Slifer used to be A tier, but it's just things have changed. They nerfed Bite and stuff, and the way that melee attacks works, I believe, was changed, and it's just Slifer suffered heavily from it. Slifer does have amazing utility. He might be the most versatile kinfolk here in what he can do. He can be a finisher. Like, it's very hard to get away from Slifer. If you can chase someone down who's low health, with Slifer you can kill them pretty easily. Although you're probably going to sacrifice a bunch of your own health. And the best thing about Slifer is he can steal your opponent's items. Slifer alone is worth having on a team just to be able to deprive your enemy of items. If we get more items that aren't regeneratable, kind of like Peach or rations, then Slifer, I think, will be much more useful just by virtue of being able to steal so many items and then fling them back at them. In summary, I think Slifer could be described as a glass cannon who isn't cannon enough. Like, he very easy to kill, like very low health and defense, but not enough attack. And that, I think, is the problem with Slifer. That concludes the alpha tier list portion of the video. I will give a quick rundown on my thoughts again. Kadoki, main problem is asleep. I gave it a lot of time. I spoke with multiple different people in the community about it. And even after thinking about it for a good little while, using it, playing against it, I still think it is on tier with Lumala's annoying heals. And that's why I put them there. Shovelet and Imbear are both just generally good. They're all-rounders who are, well, Shovelet's not so much an all-rounder. He's really good at crowd control, really good at surviving, and can do decent damage. Imbear is kind of in the opposite area, really good at damage, really bad at crowd control, but decent surviving. They're just well balanced. B ranks, all of them could just use fine tuning, maybe passives in the case of Skulkin, and maybe a different passive for Mekid. But overall, every single one of these kinfolk is good. You can win games with every single one of them. You do not need a team with Kadoki, Lumala, Shovelet, and Imbear to win. You don't need to just use the top four. You could literally have a team that has Mekid, Skulkin, Slifer, and Imbear or something like that and probably still win. I mean, I just can't put that team off the top of my head, so I'm not sure it's particularly good, but personally, I even use my main team is Imbear, Shovelet, Skulkin, and then I like to use Lumala, but I've stopped using Lumala and Kadoki both recently and replaced them with Slifer, and I still get consistent wins and still have fun. So I think all of them are competitively viable. It's just that I would like to see both of these guys move down, and I would like to see all these guys moved up, but that is the ideal world. At the end of the day, these five right here don't need anything changed. These two really do. That's where I want the focus to be, if it was up to me. So that concludes the alpha portion. Now we're going to go into the guessing portion and the prediction portion, where I try to kind of guess where each kinfolk will rank if they were added to the alpha today. So, first off, we have Avian. I'm going to guess Avian would be an A. I think that air types have been described as being more glass and more cannon than Slifer, which is literally exactly what I said Slifer needed. If Avian can come in there and just nuke opponent's kinfolk, like if the Avian can just come in and just kill Lumala or kill Imbear or kill Kadoki or something, just destroy them, but basically die. But heck, even if they literally did die, Avian would be an amazing kinfolk to have just to deny your opponent a strong kinfolk. Like, I would happily trade in a 1-for-1 against certain people with they have certain kinfolk they're really good with and I really want to get rid of them. Avian could be amazing for that. So if Avian does work like that, then I would put Avian as an A tier. Gladius I'd put as an A tier as well, because that, from what I understand, I think she's going to be a little bit more mobile than Mekid. Don't entirely quote me on that, but if she does have more mobility than Mekid, then that would probably fix a lot of my problems that I had with Mekid and just make her better in general. Castrix, I'm going to put him in a B tier because I think he's going to be a dark type with an air lean, which I don't see working good together. He's either going to be an air type with a dark lean or a dark type with an air lean. And either way, I think he's going to run into problems similar to Slifer in the way that he's just not going to do enough to justify how easy he is to take down. That's my predictions for Castrix. Nyazin, I think about that one for a little bit. I think Niazin's supposed to be, at least in the artist concepts, to be very buff focused. I'll probably put Nazin in a C tier because I think if Nazin is very like ranged attacks and buff focused, ranged attacks are good, buffs are bad because it's supposed to have maybe a light lean. If Nazin doesn't have healing, C tier. Nazin does have healing, probably B or A depending on how strong the healing is. But I'm just assuming they're going to focus on buffs. If that's the case, the state buffs are, Nazin wouldn't be useless. Like, wouldn't be D tier, but they would have to basically get ruins or just be horrible. I'm honestly going to put Salamurder in A tier. After playing the game, a lot more speed means a lot less than we thought it was going to. I would just assume Salamurder is going to have some type of dark/water. They're going to be some mix of that. I think Salamurder is probably going to be comparable to Imbear in bulkiness, which is perfectly fine. Imbear is perfectly survivable, especially if you slap Peach on them. And if Salamurder is able to get in there and do some kind of dot, kind of Caustic Cloud, and have like a chunky attack that's not Caustic Cloud, then they could basically be like the better version of Skulkin. Auburn, I'm probably going to put B. I think Auburn is probably going to be a more mobile version of Imbear. Like, I imagine you're probably going to sacrifice damage for mobility, and that's not really needed on Imbear. I think with Imbear, you're probably going to want to trend more towards just getting the damage done rather than worrying about dancing around your opponent. So I think Auburn's probably going to be B. Perfectly playable, but maybe not quite as strong as Imbear. Bakyo is another interesting one. I'm going to tentatively put them in B because they're going to be so huge that they're going to be easy to hit. They're going to need to be chunkier than Imbear with health. And they're probably going to be melee focused as well, being a water type. But yeah, I'm probably going to say Bakyo is going to suffer from a Mechid syndrome, where they're probably going to be very easy to take out with dots. Just overall, just high health, high damage, and nothing really else to show for it. Very easy to avoid and just hit with dots and whittle down like that. That's probably what I think is going to end up happening to Bakyo. Next up, we have Humble Shepherd. Gonna tentatively put them A tier. As you can see, I'm not very confident in a lot of these other things as I used to be. If they're a fire with Dark Lean, then they could have similar damage to Imbear, maybe a little more mobility. Like, I could see them having Scorch and maybe something like if they had Scorch and Caustic Cloud, then they would be hugely amazing. Judging by the event, they might have some type of mobility where they're like allowed to move around fast because you chase the flame in the Easter egg event. So I'm guessing they're going to be very mobile, which can be useful as we've seen with Skulkin. Teleport is extremely mobile. But I don't know, they might suffer in DPS. I'm gonna put them in B tier. I'm gonna say Humble Shepherd's gonna be B tier because I think their damage is gonna be a little bit too low to make them particularly good. I think they're gonna be too all around and not really focused enough. K-Knight, on the other hand, I'm fairly confident in putting in A tier. I think K-Knight is going to be the closest comparison is a Lumala with Imbear's moveset. Is basically what I can guess. Going to be more mobile than Imbear, probably have less damage than Imbear, but make up for it with that mobility, which means you can kite your enemies better. You can probably going to have Scorch, Explosion. We have literally seen K-Knight use Scorch and Explosion. They also have like a weird fire laser that's kind of like Righteous Light, so they could even be more damaged than Imbear, but be less tanky, which would still keep them an A tier. I just think they're overall going to be a very good high damage kinfolk, high damage, high mobility, and they're going to have dots and just overall ways to handle their opponents. And Gallivant, I'm probably going to put in B tier. I feel like he's going to be even stronger than Mechid with them. You know, I'm putting him C tier. I think he's going to be more damage than Mechid, less mobility than Mechid, and even more vulnerable. He's going to double down on everything about Mechid. He's going to be better than Mechid in every way that Mechid's good, but he's also going to be worse than Mechid in every way that Mechid is bad. So he's going to have horrible mobility. They're probably not going to give him Rush, which is literally the only reason Mechid is in B tier, not C tier, is Rush. So I think Gallivant's going to suffer pretty heavily from being so dang slow. And I think as we get more mecha types added, the mecha is probably going to be the worst type in the game if dots don't get changed because they just don't have answers to dots. And you're going to have to just hope and pray that whatever your opponent is using doesn't counter what item you're holding to cancel all their dots. But there you have it. We have my boom, 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 boom. That's my alpha. And then here's my guesses. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. This took quite a lot longer to make than I thought. I thought about it for a long time before I actually made it. And then even sitting down making it, some of these choices were still hard to make even after considering them for a little while. The video is now run about 25 minutes long. So it was really fun to make. I hope you guys enjoy this, and I hope you will all join me for whatever next video I make, and I hope that you'll leave your own tier list down in the comments below. But this has been Monstertaming signing off. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Goodbye. God bless. See you all next time. Bye-bye.